I'm so grateful to be here again. I'm Michelle Medrano. For those of you I haven't met, I look forward to meeting you after service. I'm honored to be a guest speaker here today, but I don't feel like a guest because I know so many of the beautiful beings in this community and have loved my time at New Vision Center for many years, and I'm joyful to be here. We are talking today in a two-part series about truth. And the series that I brought forth is all about finding a truth that's true. And today we are talking about when your truth is not my truth. And I think it's really interesting. I was contemplating that today for those in the Christian faith and those of us who are followers of Jesus, which this teaching is definitely has love and great respect for this great teacher Jesus, that the Gospels indicate that today is Palm Sunday. It's the beginning of Holy Week. It was the day that Jesus, who had been out in the desert preaching and talking to people and sharing with people and healing people and inspiring people, came into town. And what we know after we've seen all the things that took place in the Holy Week is that he came into town with a plan. And he was treated like a king. He was placed up on a donkey, and palms were placed down on the road so that as he marched through town, he was greeted like a king. And this is significant for this journey of Holy Week. But I think it's also significant because as we're talking about truth and finding a truth that's true for us and dancing with truth, I think that Jesus was one of the greatest teachers that ever lived, who constantly talked to his followers about the power of truth coupled with love. And that's what I really want to dig into deeper today. I really found a lot for myself in last week's message. In fact, I almost thought maybe I could ask Mr. just to play it and I could just lip sync for it again, you know, and just do the same message again. But we're going to go a little bit deeper into how do we stand in the midst and stand with things, people, concepts, ideas that we just don't agree with, and also stand in love. That's what Jesus called us to. And that's what teachers throughout the ages have called us to. And that, in this day and age, and honestly, I think throughout most of our human history, has been one of the greatest challenges to live by. We did a wonderful Women's Day yesterday, a retreat. How many of our women are here today who are there? Yes, it's so good to see all the ladies. Yeah. We had a great time. And we talked about belonging, the journey of belonging. And so I've been digging deeply into Brené Brown's work, this wonderful teacher. And in her book, Braving Wilderness, Brené really speaks powerfully about what's happening in this day and age. She talks about, as she did her research, which included interviewing people to discover deeper understandings about shame and about what connects us and what disconnects us. She says over and over, participants talked about their concern that the only thing that binds us together now is shared fear and disdain. Not common humanity, shared trust, respect, or love. They reported feeling more afraid to disagree or debate with friends, colleagues, and family because of the lack of civility and tolerance. So I think these words are fighting words. These words are words that say, okay, each one of us is constantly facing a choice in our life to stand in our truth with love and grace while being with everything else in this world that doesn't appear at times to be very truthful or in alignment with what we believe. How do we begin to do that? So to face when your truth is not my truth, I want to lean into a Mexican-American businessman and philanthropist, Daniel Lebetsky, who tells us we need to understand the other side to impact the other side. We become much more effective as humans and leaders when we engage in hearty conversations with those who are different from us, not necessarily to change our opinions, but to build the empathy muscle. So this is part of the action of love. It's to be willing to be in conversations, and honestly, a lot of times, actually most of the times, those conversations are in our own head, right? They're just us looking at other people, thinking about what other people are doing and saying, and having an imaginary conversation in our head about what an idiot they are, or how stupid they are, or how that's just not right what they're saying, or they don't understand. That's a lot of it right there. It's also in those interpersonal conversations where we are with people in our families or our circle of friends where we just don't see eye to eye on things. And to understand that that's okay. I reminded us last week that in a teaching of unity and oneness, our founder Ernest Holmes reminds us constantly, oneness is not sameness. The goal of the human experience is not that I get all y'all to believe what I believe because I'm absolutely right. That is not the goal. That is not the way God operates in any realm of this universe, on this planet, in any way, shape, or form. And yet often it's what we think should happen. If everyone would just believe what I believe, if everyone would just see what I see, if everyone could just see it the way I see it. And the truth is in the diversity. And it's in the willingness to be this diversity with love and respect and honor towards each other that we express the oneness. It's both and, it's not the separation. And those of us who are walking the path of both and are walking forward in and as the greatest truth. But it's not always easy, is it? People say the craziest things. And the good news and the bad news is that we live in a country with free speech. So if people are free to say anything they want to say, whether it's true or not true, they're free to say anything they want to say, even if they're making it up. They're free to say anything they want to say on social media, to your face, on a soundbite, in a video, in all sorts of places. They're free to say whatever they want to say, right? And I don't know about you, but sometimes the things they say, I just think are just unbelievably challenging. I found a meme the other day that was in honor of namaste, but it was namacray. And it was, the crazy in me acknowledges the crazy in you. I have said it silently and aloud many times. Ah, namacray, yes. And people can say what they say with no punishment either sometimes, no consequence whatsoever. And so it can also seem a little bit even crazier. I found this quote from our founder, Ernest Holmes. I had never seen this quote before. I've been in Science of Mind since I was 15 years old, a good 2-3 years ago. And I've studied him a lot, and I'd never seen this quote until I was researching for these talks. Holmes says, "When I lost hell, I lost the greatest asset I had." There's nowhere to send people who disagree with me. And this is bad. I miss it more than any of my infantile possessions. He says, but I couldn't carry it along into adulthood because the place cooled off long ago. Yeah. Yeah, there's no hell. There are consequences, absolutely. We all face the consequences of our choices. So when we say things or we repeat things or we have thoughts of love or thoughts of negativity, we experience the consequence of that. We are not immune from that. No one is immune from that. But it's hard to sometimes rectify when we see what's going on in different realms of our world and feel peace about it. And so I was recognizing that sometimes when I get so crazy and angry about things that I hear, I get like on fire. And fire can be a very powerful force, can't it? Fire can be passionate. I'm on fire with passion. And fire can be very destructive. It can kill things and take things down and hurt things and people and possessions. Fire is a powerful tool. And when I thought about fire, I all of a sudden thought about a strange little character from Shrek, Rumpelstiltskin. And Rumpelstiltskin, whenever he would get really angry, he would scream out, bring me my angry wig. And he would wear this wig like you see in this picture that looks like it's on fire. And I started like looking at things in the world and going, bring me my angry wig. This is just making me so angry. And so I realized as I was thinking about this and calling for my angry wig a little more often than I would have liked, that I needed to do something about that fire that wants to burn in me. And so, yes, of course, it can be passionate, but it can also be destructive, even in my own mind. And I thought about what we learned when we were kids about fire. Do you remember the 3 steps? Stop, drop, roll. Stop, drop, roll. That's become a mantra for me. And it has meaning for me when I feel this anger as I'm watching things go on in the world that I don't agree with. When I watch people say things I don't agree with. And so I want to unpack it a little bit and invite us to consider when we encounter this week, this coming week, truths that we feel on fire about, we feel angry about, we're on fire and frustrated, to consider stop, drop, and roll. So to stop, in the activity of stopping, what does that mean? Well, what I've learned is stopping usually means shut up. Don't speak, just stop. You're about to say something you're going to regret. Now, of course, this is at the innermost communication level between one-on-one or in a work setting or in a group or even in my own mind as I'm going through my social media and seeing things happening or listening to the news or thinking about what's going on here or there or anywhere. I've got my angry wig on. Stop. Just stop. Stop and take a moment. Stop and think about it. Stop is a wonderful word because it interrupts the pattern. And what we all are is addicted to our already established patterns of thinking. I talked about that last week. Implicit bias, the way that our mind works and goes over and over and over and back to the same things over and over and over again, whether or not they're right for us, correct for us, or even factual or correct in the world. We will go back to them over and over and over. Even if they make us feel fear or anxious or unpleasant, we will think about them over and over and over. Those things, those conditions, those people. And when we have a simple word like, stop, just stop. Have any of you seen that Bob Newhart video where he's teaching that woman therapy? Just stop it. It's his answer for therapy. Just stop it. So this is kind of in the spirit of Bob Newhart. But it works. It works for those of us who go forth with an intention to say, I'm choosing to be more peaceful. I'm choosing to be more kind. I'm choosing to be a more loving presence in myself, in my life, and in my world. Just stop. Just stop right now. Is the path that I'm about to go down going to bless me or anyone? Or is it going to continue to bring forth greater anxiety, fear, upset, and anger? And if it is bringing those other things, it's important to stop the pattern. And when we stop the pattern, part of what we can do immediately, what I've been trying to do, is just to get grateful. I'm a follower of Abraham Hicks, and one of the things that I love about Abraham Hicks is a willingness to see the contrast in my life. To say, I'm stopping and I'm seeing that pattern, that thing that's being said, that thing I don't agree with, is showing me some contrast. And rather than lean into making it wrong and continuing to perpetuate its energy, I'm going to see the contrast as a gift for me to center myself more clearly. I'm going to see the contrast as an opportunity. Oh, look, there's something I'm upset about. Isn't that interesting? There's something that I don't like. There's someone who just said something I don't agree with. Let's stop. Let's give gratitude for seeing myself in this pattern. And then let me get curious about it. Curiosity is one of the most healing balms, I think, in the world. To get curious, to be curious, to ask myself, what is this about for me? what am I really afraid of? What's really going on here? How can I be more curious about my own patterns, my own feelings, my own thoughts, what I'm doing to myself right now? I love how Deepak Chopra talks about how every human being is a cell in the body of God, and that we get to choose, are we a cell that is projecting out love, or are we a toxic cell? And I think what we're forgetting in this day and age is how easily and quickly and habitually we're becoming toxic cells. Because the opportunities are ripe, aren't they? They are so ripe. And so it's taking more diligence, and that's the gift, beloveds. That is the gift. Yeah, it's harder maybe than it used to be when, in the day and age when they didn't have social media and they didn't have a 24-hour news cycle. Yeah, it's harder. It's harder to stop and get into love, but it's the practice that life is calling us to. We are the humans who are here now being invited to consider, can I stop? Can I get grateful? Can I get curious? This last summer, I think it was, or late, it was actually in the fall, I watched a movie because I realized that in all of this, it's not like we become spiritual mats to be walked upon. I can be in a conversation, really hear somebody and say, well, I hear you on that, and I don't agree with you, and here's what I think. I don't have to do that with anger and toxicity. I can do that very clearly. So I'm not saying that we don't have conversations, or we don't disagree, or we don't see a different viewpoint. It's how we do it that makes all the difference, right? And being curious is one of the steps to keep us profoundly balanced. And so there was a movie that came out in the fall, and it was a documentary called The Insurrectionist Next Door. It was documentary filmmaker Alexandra Pelosi. Alex Pelosi is the daughter of Nancy and Paul Pelosi, and she was in the Capitol on January 6th, which was very traumatic for her, and especially because some of the trauma that took place were people coming and looking for her mother and wanting to harm her mother, and harmed her mother's office, and she was there with her mother that day. She could have fallen into a political sea of let me go out and make all these people wrong, and let me go out and speech about it and be so rude about it, because she was scared and she was angry. And what she decided to do was to get curious. And so in this movie, what I found very profound is she went to some of the people who showed up that day to protest and interviewed them and sought to understand, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? What propelled you to do this? And I found it fascinating that she was very respectful to them, but she didn't let them, let me say how I want to say this. She had boundaries with them. She said, no, I don't think that's right. I don't think how you're thinking about that is right. But you still did that anyway, even though you knew that was you still did that anyway. And she would question them and then let them be on film. She never edited it. She didn't turn the film off. And then they produced it and showed it on HBO. And I just found it to be a fascinating film, mostly because of Alex. Because Alex was willing to be curious about a group of people that have been vilified. And I'm not saying they were right or wrong to do what they did. I'm not going to make that kind of judgment. But it was interesting to hear what called some of them to make that choice. And it gave me more compassion as a human being towards other human beings. And for that, I was grateful. I was grateful for that. And it taught me that we can all be more compassionate. And indeed, that's the next step. We stop, we get curious, we get grateful, and then we drop. Where do we drop? We drop into our heart. That's the place. That's the only place where we can be saved. If we drop into our compassion, if we drop into a place where we can love and honor and respect people, even people who have the diametrically opposite viewpoint that we have about anything in the world, spirituality, how to raise children, how to spend money, how to raise their kids, how to do what they do, how to see life through any lens that they see it, the more we can have compassion and love, the more powerful we are in our world. And this dropping into the heart, it's the crucial step. It's the crucial step of beginning to heal our disdain and our anger and our frustration. It's dropping into the heart. Literally taking a deep breath and seeing that person as a human being. That's one of the things that I loved about Jesus, is that the Gospels indicate Jesus did not go up to people and ask their political beliefs before he healed them. Jesus did not ask them if they were followers of his before he healed them. He just healed. He saw anybody who was struggling, anybody who was frustrated or hurt, and he extended compassion. And I think that's the lesson. The deep, powerful, profound lesson about this truth is that I can disagree, I can have my own thoughts, and I can also be compassionate and loving and completely understanding that I don't have the full picture of why you believe what you believe, why you are thinking that way. And if I need to, I can ask, especially if I know you well. Tell me more about what's motivating you to do it that way. I'm curious. Very easy, simple, open conversations. So stopping, dropping. And then what is the roll about? The roll is that sometimes we have to roll out of the situation. If we're getting too angry, if we're getting caught up in our pissosity, if we're getting caught up in righteousness, if we're getting caught up in frustration, we got to roll. We got to roll out until we can come back to the situation, the person, or the condition in that centered space. Because every time we don't roll out of it like that, we are actively being a toxic energy in the body of God. One person that I've really struggled with to be this way in recent past has been that Vladimir Putin guy. Oh my gosh, I have spent so many hours so angry and frustrated, and I really had to put this into practice. And one day it dawned on me. So I want to recall us back to a few moments ago in the service when Vernice did her prayer. Did you hear her passion and her energy? And that prayer was so beautiful and powerful, and I have no doubt that it's manifesting. But I have no doubt about any word spoken in that passion. But remember, that passion is passion and fire. So every time I thought about Vladimir Putin, what am I contributing? What am I praying? Please may I have some more violence. Please may we have some more cruelty. Please may we have some more war. Please may we have some more you being a jerk. That's what I was praying for, right? Every time. I'm affirming as passionately as Vernice prayed up here on this platform. That's what I'm doing. And I began to ask myself, is that really what I want to do? Is that what I really want? That's not what I really want. So if that's not what I want, I got to do something different. So my role was that I began in my spiritual practice to send Vladimir Putin love bombs. Just like little light bombs. And flowers trickling all around him, and beautiful little energy. Anytime I thought about him, just send them in. Number one, I don't know so far if I'm seeing any results, but I'm working on it. Could happen. It could happen. I have faith. But number two, who am I then? Who am I being with regards to what I'm putting out in the world? We are a collective group of people who, if we put our hearts together like that, we could change the whole scene, right? We could change the whole scene. And so that's what it takes. It takes that stop, drop, and roll. And I will acknowledge it is not always easy. I have not found this practice to be the easiest practice that I've ever entertained. But it has given me greater peace. And it's given me an opportunity to feel as though I'm writing myself in what I say I believe about love and compassion and being a person who wants to make a difference in the world that is positive and powerful, if that's who we say we are, This is the work we've got to do. And I go back to one last thing before I complete this message. Last week, I asked everybody to consider one of the places that we can roll into, and that's what I'm using today, rolling into, is what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong about what I believe? What if I'm wrong about who I'm supporting? What if I believe about who I think is right in the world? What if I'm wrong? And finding myself in a more neutral position. And this has served me in so many ways. I remember when I was 15 years old reading the book Illusion by Richard Bach, and I was so passionately into that book. And the very last page, you turn to the very last page of the book, and at the end of the book, he says, everything in this book might be wrong. Everything in this talk might be wrong. Everything I've said today may not resonate with you, and you're going to find your own way. And that's fine, because that's who we are, and that's how we are. But if we don't do anything else, let us just go forth today and understand that the greatest truth of life is found in the greatest acts of love. And those acts of love emerge from our heart, from our mind, from our words, from our actions. And if that's the truth that you're in resonance with this week, let's practice it together. Please join me for some prayer. We just take a deep breath together now. We go within and we allow ourselves to once again feel, sense, and become present to the presence of life, the divine presence of love, to recognize that it is everywhere, in everything, in every person, every activity, that God is all, and all that we find beautiful and magnificent in this world, in this universe, and all that we don't understand about this world and this universe, and even in all that we find displeasing about this universe and this world. It is the all, in the all, as the all, through the all. It is the infinite. And each one of us is a place where it lives, moves, and has its being. I know that this is the truth of me as I speak this word, and it's the truth of every person who hears this word. We are united. We are in oneness. We are connected. We are grounded in the same ground of beingness that is God. And so right here and right now, we stand together in this prayerful consciousness, accepting, affirming, claiming this deep truth. And I accept and affirm that we go forth today grounded, rooted in this love, remembering that this is who we've always been and who we remain being, and that our words and our actions and our lives are an expression of this in these days ahead. That as we encounter that which appears to be opposed to what we believe or what we stand for or what we hold to be true, we are passionate, loving beings of light, finding ways to move ourselves powerfully and magnificently into center, into love, into wholeness, into peace, into joy, because this we know to be the most powerful, satisfying, effective strategy of all when it comes to transforming ourselves and transforming this planet. We just give thanks for this recognition right here and right now. I give thanks for the manifestation of this through us, in us, and as us now. I give thanks that this is done, and I gratefully and joyfully release this prayer to the action of that universal law where I know that it is done. It is complete. It is so. We let go. We let God. We let it be. And so it is.